to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stylez and Rosenberg.
Well, the team just reminded me of the Yusuf Hawkins documentary. Have you guys seen it?
I have not. I didn't even know it was coming out, to be honest with you.
HBO Docs.
I haven't seen it yet.
This was 4 days ago. Yusuf Hawkins, if you don't recall, let me remind you the Yusuf Hawkins story, was August 23rd, 1989. Yusuf Hawkins went to Bensonhurst, to a predominantly Italian-American working-class neighborhood. Hawkins and three friends were shopping for a used Pontiac that was for sale. However, 10 to 30 white youths, some of them wielding baseball bats, one armed with a handgun, shot Hawkins twice in the chest, killing him. Mm-hmm. Now, the group and the attackers were waiting for some black youths that they believed to be dating a girl in the neighborhood.
We've heard this before.
What year was this, Ebro?
89, I think.
Now, what I've always found interesting was around this time in the 80s here in New York City. Yusuf Hawkins' death was the third killing of a black man by white mobs in New York City during the 1980s. Willie Turks was killed June 22nd, 1982. Michael Griffith was killed in Queens, 1986.
Yeah, I remember hearing a lot about, there was a lot of tension because there was Tawana Brawley, who was around that time, who was, some said she faked it. We don't know, but these were the stories going around. It was the Crown Heights riots.
I think that was proven.
I think it was fiction.
Right.
That she did, right.
Yeah.
But just the racial tension around that time, Yusuf Hawkins and the things that you were hearing, it wasn't a good time, man. And I had to look up the Yusuf Hawkins again because I'm like, it was so long ago, but the name is, resonates with you.
Right, me too.
Traumatic time in history.
Right.
And I had to try to figure out what it was, but they're doing a documentary again, so I'm gonna check it out.
It's on HBO right now, guys?
Yeah, it's on HBO Max.
Yusuf Hawkins doc. It reminds you of the fabric of New York City. Mm-hmm. People like to lie and act like New York City's this melting pot. Ain't nothing melted about this pot.
This is when Al Sharpton kind of emerged through these situations.
And this took place in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, right?
Mm-hmm. But it was happening all over New York City.
Well, yeah.
But Brooklyn had a lot.
Has always had
The feeling, though, in New York in the 80s that I remember very well from all the news stories, from being here all the time, staying with my grandparents, there was always a racial tension story, constantly. Mm-hmm. Blacks, Jews, blacks, Italians, this one. It was always something. It was a real hotbed of a lot of nonsense. And you're right, we sort of do walk past that, but it was a real part of the fabric. Whenever these stories of anti-Semitism come up, I'm always like, if you spend a lot of time in New York, you knew that relationship between the black community and particularly the Orthodox Jewish community has always been strained in Brooklyn and other parts of New York too. And then Spike Lee, in Do the Right Thing, really tapped in to all of those feelings that existed in New York.
It came out 89.
Yep. Mm-hmm. 1989.
Right in the middle of this. Before 1990 was when the convictions came down for these people in the Yusuf Hawkins case.
A lot was happening.
So anyway, check that on HBO. And being honest, it's one of the reasons I never watched Sopranos. Because of how my mind was shaped. I mean, I've seen episodes of Sopranos, but I saw it late. I wasn't into it right away. Because that whole zone, that whole swag reminded me of racism. You know what I mean? It reminded me of disdain for black folks. That whole mobster thing. And, you know, that's how your mind gets shaped by these incidents.
Yeah, for sure. I think I felt the same way. I mean, I was made that, like, connected those things.
You think the NYPD police union is endorsing Trump for any other reason other than racism?
Yes, Ebro, he's the law and order president. Haven't you heard him? That's
Police
intentional.
officers work for the people. The people are saying we don't like the job you're doing. It's not sophisticated enough, and we need to evolve. And to evolve, we want to move resources into other things so we can be smarter and we can be better and we can look at our community and policing and helping people and safety differently. But you want to hold on to the old ways. And so when I see it, and the reason this has something to do with Yusuf Hawkins is because when I look at y'all going all the way out to New Jersey to jump up in front of Trump's golf course and endorse him all the way over in New Jersey, you know what I saw? A bunch of white boys holding on to old New York, holding on to old ways of doing things. And we all know what I mean when I say old ways of doing things.
Now, real quick, where would you...
I'm not done.
Okay.
Many of y'all are from these neighborhoods where all over New York City, white mobs attacked and killed black folks in the 80s. Y'all grew up there.
At that time, too, right?
At
Probably.
that time. You're my age or older. I'm 45. So I know your ilk. I know your fabric. The city knows. And it's a problem. It's a big problem. This Yusuf Hawkins documentary we're talking about is on HBO Max. You can go check it out if you want to get reminded. I would say stay away if you don't.
If you don't want to be reminded. But, Ebro, where would you say that the most important symbol, arguably, of the protests in New York is the Black Lives Matter that's painted on the ground?
Yeah.
Where is that painted?
Right in front of Trump Tower.
And there is a symbol. There is a symbol there because we all know what Trump Tower and Trump stands for. So Black Lives Matter is there specifically for a reason. When you then go and intentionally stand on the side of Trump, you don't have to endorse it. I'm sure they don't have to have an endorsement.
They don't.
You had to have an endorsement. So what does that say to the people who are protesting? It lets them know loud and clear where you
Oh,
stand.
yeah, it's a big FU. Listen, Rosenberg, he's a law and order president.
I know. Law and...
So
And when you
that's
go
what,
back to
you know.
the and when you go back to the 60s,
What did that mean?
law and order was synonymous with the oppression and incarceration of black people. And black people standing up for their rights. And black people speaking out. Because remember, all of this protest in the United States goes back to black people having to risk their lives in front of attack dogs, water hoses, beatings by police to just get civility. Not even equal. We weren't even at equal. We was just like, hey, yo, can we go to the lunch stand, fam? Can
Right
we get
now,
on the
we're
bus?
fighting for equal.
Right.
Can we not
You
be
really think
killed
about it?
and hung from trees?
Right.
Can we vote since we helped build this joint?
Do we matter?
That's what this whole thing goes back to. So when you start talking law and order and aligning the NYPD with Trump through the union, and by the way, I ain't heard de Blasio say nothing. Maybe I gotta go look at his Twitter. I haven't heard police speak out. Are y'all afraid of your union that you pay?
Yep. By the way, when's the last time the NYPD union ever endorsed a presidential candidate? To be
Great
voted?
question, Cass. That's an important
I
question.
don't never remember that happen. happening.
That
Has
is a
Cuomo
great
said anything?
question.
I doubt it,
I
right?
don't-
It's such a
So-
good question, Cass, because if
I
they
mean-
haven't done this before, if they don't have a precedent of always endorsing a candidate, and they were just like, we
Well,
got
here's
you.
the top story. This was one day ago. CBS Local New York. Police Benevolence Association breaks with tradition,
There we
endorses president.
There you go.
I've never seen
So
it.
y'all just gave a middle finger to the entire Black Lives Matter movement. That was what the PBA decided to do. Good job.
They
I'm
say
sure
law-
Trump made
they-
it sweet for him.
They
Blue Lives
say
Matter.
law and order needs to be restored, but African American officers say the endorsement will make their jobs even harder.
Wait, hold on. I found a quote from Pat Lynch. He said he cannot remember when they've ever endorsed. He literally said, "I cannot remember when we've ever endorsed for the office of President of the United States until now."
Good job. Good call, Pat Lynch.
And right on time over the weekend, Trump with 50 shootings in New York City since Thursday. Trump says if the mayor's not going to handle it, I'm going to handle it. Law and order needs to be restored. And by the way, and if we take a step back, just everybody step back. We're in COVID. Everybody's on quarantine. There's mad unemployment. When you zoom into the zip codes that are predominantly black and Hispanic, you have upwards of 30% unemployment in these areas where many of these shootings are taking place. So there's a lot of frustration and there's crime when people don't have jobs and are frustrated. There's also gentrification happening. So if they can put the pressure on neighborhoods, get people out of those neighborhoods, chaos and crime get people out of prime real estate neighborhoods so that development can get got on the cheap and they can turn neighborhoods around faster. In the next 5 years in New York City, you know how people are running with I think it's like a reverse marketing scheme in a way. The whole New York is over, everyone's moving, New York is over scheme, because it brings prices to a level. In some areas, the prices will go down, and you can grab New York City on the cheap if you got money. Because I know in the South Bronx, East New York, Brownsville, people want these areas. They want those brick buildings and old homes. They want that for the next 10-year run, because there's about to be a new 10-year run of real estate after this COVID lull.